What we'll do is we hope the candidates maybe shoot for 15 minute talk, 5 minutes for question and answers, 10 minutes for talk, 10 minutes for question and answers, whatever. But at 20 minutes we have to send the police department out to take a look. With that, the first speaker is John Burrell. And we encourage you to ask the political candidates questions.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I don't like being tethered to a microphone here, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk in an unscripted manner. Of course, take any questions that you all might have. But my name is John Burrell. I am a candidate for U.S. Congress. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, some of the issues that I think our country faces that we need to address, and then perhaps give you a little bit of a campaign update of where we are with the race. Let me tell you about who I am. My name is John Burrell. I'm born and raised in Las Cruces. I'm a native New Mexican, as is my wife. We're very, very fortunate to say that we can trace our lineage many, many generations back in New Mexico. It's something that we are very, very proud of. We love this state and are committed to service to this state, our whole family. One of the things I also want to point out is that I was also blessed to have gone to public schools in Las Cruces. And I'm going to tell you, while I'm the Republican nominee, let me be real up front with you, I'm not a country club Republican. I don't come from privilege, but I was privileged to have great parents who taught me about self-reliance, about a society of what I call opportunity and ownership. Not only opportunity about what this country offers, but ownership over not only worldly goods, but ownership over the direction of where we take our lives. And so that's what I was raised with that fundamental principle of doing better, working hard, getting an education. I went out to college, worked my way through college and law school out at Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. I was also blessed to have had the opportunity to work for Congressman Joe Skeen for 8 years. I was one of his original staffers, so I was very, very fortunate to work for Congressman Skeen, who was in many ways my political mentor, and I really respected him, and he became a very close personal friend of mine and family. I met my wife in Washington, D.C., of all things. She's a native New Mexican. She was getting her graduate degree at George Washington University. So we met while we were out there and had the great blessing to move back to New Mexico in 1987. And have been don't hold it against me, I'm a recovering lawyer. Is that okay? That's okay. I'm a recovering lawyer, practiced for 8 years. I was an assistant attorney general up in Santa Fe, and director of the civil division, and also worked at Intel for about 12 years, and for about the last 7 years or so, been a small business guy in town. Through the whole time that we've been back in New Mexico, literally from day one, I've been involved in leading nonprofit organizations, leading business groups, leading the Hispano Chamber of Commerce. I've been very active in educational groups and mainly groups that have been aimed at trying to provide assistance to those who are less fortunate. So my commitment to New Mexico runs very, very deep. And that really brings you to why in the world am I running for office? Why is John Burrell, why is my family committed to this race? And by the way, all my volunteers and staff, many of whom are here today. Why am I doing this? I'm going to tell you, I think our country's horribly off course. And this isn't a partisan issue necessarily. I got to be candid with you. While I am the Republican nominee, I've got to tell you, we had problems ourselves when we ran Congress. We spent far too much money, far too quickly, and debt piled up in an amount that's staggering. Now, in 1987, I always tell the story. In 1987, the last year I worked for Congressman Skeen on the House Appropriations Committee staff, the federal government, our republic, for the first time in the history of our nation, passed a $1 trillion budget. A $1 trillion budget. In 1987, my oldest son was born. And in his short lifetime, 22, 23 years, our federal budget has ballooned from $1 trillion to $3.6 trillion under the first budget of this administration. Now, what's interesting is that this Congress is not passing a budget. They've refused to pass a budget. This will be the first time since the Budget Act of 1974 that the U.S. House of Representatives will not pass a budget. If you can't budget, you can't govern. So we've seen a fourfold increase in federal spending since my son was born in his short lifetime. is $13.1 trillion as we stand today. And even under the rosiest projections, even under the rosiest scenarios, that debt is going to grow and balloon up to possibly as much as $20 trillion in 10 years. And this is according to the administration's proposals and projections. What that means is basically about $46,000 as we stand today of federal debt per man, woman, and child. And I think when we talk about the economy, we talk about growing jobs, you cannot turn the economy around, you cannot grow jobs when you have that kind of debt and deficit, and you're layering generational debt upon generational debt. And by the way, that debt does not include the unfunded obligations, which the equivalent of tens of trillions of dollars in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now look, I know Mr. Heinrich's representatives are here, and I respect Mr. Heinrich in his office. I've said that many times. But in this election, you're going to see a very clear choice. I wish Mr. Heinrich were here to talk about his voting record, but I guess I'll tell you where his voting record is. Mr. Heinrich has voted for about over $1 trillion in so-called stimulus money, which has done nothing to create jobs or turn the economy around. You might remember when they passed the first so-called stimulus bill, they said that unemployment would not go above 8% if you passed the $787 billion so-called stimulus. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we know where the unemployment rate is today. It's much higher than 8%. It's about 9.6%, 9.5%. We may be heading to a double-dip recession. I hope not. It's the good of our country, and as a business guy, I certainly hope not. He voted for the health care legislation. Now, you can say what you want about the health care bill, whether you're for it or against it, but even if you believe in the substance of the bill, you can't possibly defend the process in which it was passed. This Congress, including Mr. Heinrich, promised open, new, transparent government. But what we got was a Cornhusker kickback, the Gatorade, all of the turning of the House rules on its head, closed-door conference committees, saying anything to get this bill passed. A promise made and a promise broken. They promised that everybody, the thing that was amazing to me, speaking of debt and deficit, was that they said that this bill was going to cost less than $1 trillion. Only $940 billion over 10 years. Well, guess what? CBO, Congressional Budget Office, and even the Department of Human Services now said, guess what? It's going to cost over $1 trillion. Probably more when all is said and done. The bill is horribly flawed. It's 2,500 pages long. And I guarantee that the regulations that are going to accompany this bill are going to be thousands of pages longer as well, imposing new and burdensome regulations upon individuals and small businesses. That's not how you grow an economy. It's not how you create jobs. Mr. Heinrich also voted for and supported cap and trade, a piece of legislation that even Greenpeace called the height of political hypocrisy. For the first time in my life, I've got to tell you, I agree with Greenpeace. I go on and on and on, but there's a simple philosophical difference between where he stands and where I stand on how we grow the economy, how we create jobs. Now, I want to make sure that there's enough time for questions and answers, because I'm happy to do so in an unscripted, unfiltered manner. Again, I wish Mr. Heinrich were here to answer the same questions. He's only had one town hall, as far as I remember, a bunch of town halls that are all scripted, all filtered. So, let me conclude this by saying that I'm very proud of the support I had. About 3 weeks ago, we received the endorsement from the National Federation of Independent Business, small business people around the country. 2 days ago, we got the endorsement from BIPAC, the Business Industry Political Action Committee. We got the support from folks like Mitt Romney and John McCain and many other national groups. We're very happy about where our campaign is. The campaign also was made the cover of National Journal magazine as one of the 5 most promising Republican challenger races in the country. And we're very proud of that. We have many, many volunteers who signed up, again, some of whom are here today, and I want to thank them for being here with me. Before I conclude, I want to